And we're podcasting.
I like that sound, sir.
Oh, Smithy, it is good to be back.
It is, after a little hiatus.
Hiatus where we had some Christmas time treats.
And dreaming about the fleet.
Not talking about the fleet for a little bit way too long.
Yep.
Kind of rusty.
Exactly. And we got some fantasy football.
Ooh, we got some fantasy football tonight.
And the official AAF ball.
Fantasy football and the ball.
The ball. 91.2 the ball.
Woo! It's a little apparent that we haven't been on the airwaves for a couple of weeks, Smith. That was a bit of a rough intro.
Yeah,
but
I need some Rust-Oleum.
I settled into that sexy falsetto pretty big time.
Gave me the shivers.
Hey, if I can make your knees weak or loins weak during the course of this show, then I'm calling it a success.
Let's leave my loins out of this.
Never. Your loins are always a focus of the broadcast here.
Okay. You insist.
Welcome to the Shipyard. Of course, we are the San Diego Fleet Football Podcast. Smith, how was your vacation, man? How was your Christmas? How'd it go?
Sum it up, it was nice and quiet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Cooked a nice steak dinner for the missus.
Beautiful.
Made some of Smithy's famous mashed potatoes.
Smashing taters.
Oh, man. So it was good. How about yours?
Well, mine was eventful.
Really?
Yeah. It was a little chaotic. We went all over the place, multiple families, and then old VanAwesome got himself a fiance.
Where did you pick that up?
I found her in the woods.
Wow. Shoot, I've been looking in the wrong... Well, I'm married. Never mind.
You got to go out to the woods.
Had I known...
You come back engaged every time.
Exactly.
Or murdered. One of the two.
So wear your parka.
But yeah, no, it was pretty cool. We went up to Big Bear. The now future missus and I took a little hike out into a beautiful snowy field. And I faked a little knee injury.
Oh.
To which she completely ignored because she was watching the dog run around. And I sat there with my knee in the snow for... probably about a minute waiting for her to turn around and pay attention to her ailing boyfriend. And when she did, she was taken completely off guard, shouted an obscenity at me, and pushed me over.
Did she hit you first, then push you over?
It was kind of simultaneous. And then she picked me up. And of course, I had a big speech plan and I didn't get to.
So she picked you up. Did she carry you through the door like from,
it was a very,
from Officer and a Gentleman?
Very romantic time. But yeah. So, but long story short, I'm now engaged. So,
well, congrats.
Thanks, man.
Man, had I known, I would have been married years ago if I'd known about those woods and fiancés out there. But no, that's awesome. That's awesome for VanAwesome.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
How does she feel about becoming a VanAwesome?
I think she's excited about it.
Okay. I mean, she's gonna. Little slightly different signature, but hey, I don't even know what her last name is. To learn that new, she'll have to, transition, make the old switcheroo. I'm sure it'll be a pain in the butt, but well, what's funny is her initials will be TV.
Yeah. So, all right, I didn't even think about that. That's
You're welcome.
All right, and with that, Smithy, we have a decent amount of fleet news since we've been gone.
Yeah, amazing how that works out when you don't do anything.
It's amazing. You take a little break and some things pile up. But the I'd say the one of the bigger questions that got answered is the ball going to be different in any way?
That's right.
And our quickly favorite person over at the fleet, Dave Bowler, put out, I think, probably... he wasn't supposed to, but he did it anyway.
Whoops.
He put out a picture, the first picture of the AAF ball on his Instagram account. Of course, it caught traction by maybe your certain favorite San Diego-based fleet podcast, and blasted all over the place, and then of course spread throughout the entire AAF community. And it was pulled from his Instagram account pretty much immediately after that.
Wow.
But Dave, we thank you.
The eyes upon the AAF are like quick to act.
They're like, oh no, the ball.
No.
So let's hear what QB for the San Diego Fleet has to say about the ball.
Which QB?
Alex Ross.
The new ball, the Alliance ball, I like it a lot. First I grabbed it and it felt a little bit smaller than a regular NFL NFL ball.
That's what she
think somebody told me it's actually a little bit bigger.
That's what she said.
But when I started throwing it, it really just comes off. So it's got a nice feel to it. It looks pretty in the air. It's also got the red, white, blue on it.
Live from the side of the freeway, Alex Ross.
Yeah, Alex Ross from the side of the freeway. Innuendo after innuendo describing the new football. But the thing that really stood out to me there is that the ball is slightly bigger.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Why would that be? I don't know why they wouldn't just go regulation NFL.
Which it should.
It really
Are college balls any?
I think college balls are actually a little bit smaller than NFL balls, which I don't get either. I don't know why they're not the same. But the slightly different size.
Maybe somebody misunderstood, perhaps.
Maybe. Maybe it was a mistake. Who knows? It's like the San Diego Fleet jersey, which finally was delivered. We haven't talked about this yet. We should. The special edition jersey, which did not look promising from the photos on the store. And it's not as bad as it looked on the store, but it's still pretty bad. And the biggest thing, and this is really unforgivable, is the logo is the wrong logo.
Yeah,
there
was absolutely zero reference photos.
Yeah, literally, like, how do you, the fact that the logo was this like it blows my mind. So
Starter, you had one job, and I don't understand. Like, this is what you guys do. You make jerseys, jackets, hats.
Yeah,
come on.
The fact that the logo is wrong, it just kills me, man. That's
painful.
That's super painful. But I won't be buying it. Some other people did. I guess they're sold out.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, I heard the old Fleet Fanatic bought one.
Yeah, he did. He did actually put up a really funny review on Twitter. And his handle is actually at Fanatic Fleet.
Oh, wow.
So Fleet Fanatic is another person, I think, associated with the still non-existent Central Fleet podcast that has announced that they're a podcast, but they haven't put out a show yet.
Ah, okay.
So I'm still waiting for that to see how that is.
Nice.
But Fanatic Fleet, who we met at the draft party.
Correct.
Super awesome guy. Very funny video review. So check that out.
Yes.
So while we're on the topic of other podcasts and other shows, we were actually interviewed by another podcast, the Alliance Football Podcast, which is a podcast focusing on the entire league, not just one team. So we highly recommend you go check that out. So it is training camp. Training camp is underway, Smith.
It is.
Training camp is underway right now. And I would say the biggest story coming out of training camp is our defense.
It, from what I understand, it's kind of lighten things up.
Yep, the defense is killing it. Kameron Kelly. I always want to call him Cameron. I don't know. Cam Kelly, who will be joining us in early February, by the way, on a show, has been absolutely destroying it out there. He has 2 pick sixes already in the first 2 days of camp. Here's a little audio on his first days of camp.
I came down and, 2 backs went the opposite way, so I ended up being the whole player. Kind of just read the quarterback's eyes. I seen him look right once, and then, usually quarterbacks, they do first look, second look, and the ball's coming out. So once I seen him look back, once the play actually came, I knew I had a drag coming across, something behind me, so I just kind of stayed in the middle, and he threw it right.
Threw it right to me is what he said at the end there. Now,
also live by the freeway.
Also live by the freeway.
I'm sure that makes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm sure that makes Coach Allen very happy with what he's seen.
Yeah, Coach Allen, he, from all reports, he's the source of energy on all the defense.
I believe
he's ramping it up.
I believe it.
And his squad has been following suit. They've been reports coming out on the Fleet Instagram stories. Almost every highlight is some DB doing something awesome. Nice. We've got McGee had a pick 6.
Oh, wow.
Kelly's had 2 pick sixes. Another cornerback got a pick. A linebacker got a pick. Now, that's good.
This guy's got some hands.
But is it really that good? Because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there. You like to hear about our DBs killing it, but that gives us a little concern over the quarterback situation.
Was it our quarterback throwing the ball?
It was our quarterback throwing the ball.
Son of a...
Yeah, so... Now, from what I've seen, the highlights I've seen coming on the Instagram stories and out of the Fleet PR Twitter account, is that there's been a lot of Alex Ross highlights that I've seen, more so than Bercovici.
Ooh, interesting.
So I don't know if we've got a legit QB competition on our hands now. I think we do, but the Alex Ross highlights have been looking very, very sharp.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's good news. I'd rather have a quarterback competition like that instead of, we need some help here.
Yep. So we do love Alex Ross. He's got the best beard I think I've ever seen on a quarterback.
It is looking good.
Ryan Fitzpatrick included. But so that's encouraging to see. You know, of course, we do have some audio of Mike Martz on his impressions of the first days of
Uncle
camp.
Mike has to say.
See what Uncle Mike has to say.
Is he handing out Chris Fives?
I like our personnel. I really like our players. I think we got really good players. I love the intensity and the effort, their attention to detail. Obviously, we had a lot of mistakes. I mean, this is the very first day when you come out, especially when everybody's new to the system. It's never good. So it's either horrible or it's bad. Bad is good. So, in terms of, because there are a lot of mistakes out there, but the intensity was really good. Happy with the effort. We've got a long ways to go, obviously, but I'm pleased with the players. We're a talented team, I think.
So he's getting his Chris Fives ready. I think someone
was he by a freeway and fishing? Sounds like somebody's pulling in a reeling rod.
Or he had someone riding a bike in the background. And I think that guy is his Chris Five holder.
Oh.
And he was bored. He was riding around in the background.
Yeah, you got to stay in shape if you're handing out all those Chris Fives.
So that's true. But the biggest takeaway from that is that, and it's to be expected, first couple days, there's going to be some mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
He said, I forget exactly what he said, but he was like, bad is good. If you're only bad on the first couple of days, that's good.
Right.
As long as you're not terrible, that's what you're looking for.
And I think he would know. I'm sure he's been through a few preseasons before. Yep. So.
But so coming up on the show, Smith, and we probably should have mentioned this before 12 minutes into the show, but we have
surprise
an amazing guest joining us today.
We do.
Howard Bender, who's the head of content at Fantasy Alarm. But not only is he the head of content at Fantasy Alarm, he is a host of the Fantasy Alarm show on Fantasy Sports Radio with Sirius XM.
Nice.
Yeah, and as I have alluded, as I have mentioned a couple times here on the show, I am a huge fantasy football player.
That is the rumor.
And not just because I am a giant person and I also play fantasy football. I mean, I play it like crazy.
That's not just your stature.
Not just my stature. But so Howard will be joining us here in a little bit. We're going to talk about the fantasy game as we expect to see it. And we're going to throw out some speculation. We're going to throw out how it's being adopted in the mainstream fantasy industry, which I think is a very, very important.
Because I'm sure he's got his ear to that world on the more mainstream side, like you said, and see how, this is going to be hopefully some eye-opening information.
I hope so. I'm really curious because I think the fantasy industry is what's going to make or break the success of the league. If they can successfully infiltrate and get the fantasy community to play AAF fantasy football, then I think that is solidifying, the league's future. Because
I think it's going to definitely be a big component.
You've seen it in NFL since fantasy football came along. NFL fanaticism has increased tenfold, in my opinion.
And look at all the ancillary things that it has spawned.
Yeah. I mean, it's created entire industries. Howard's made a career being an analyst and a radio show host just about fantasy football.
That's amazing.
Which is absolutely amazing. If I could do that, I would do it in a heartbeat. But so Howard's going to be coming on shortly, and we are super excited about it.
I know I am.
Also, Smith, we have our very first contest to brewing.
We do.
Yes, indeed. We are giving away a signed Shipyard shirt that we brought to Meet the Fleet, and the entire team signed it. And we're giving it away.
Yeah, they got all their signatures on there, and I think maybe one of them might have a phone number.
There's a couple phone numbers on there, so if you give them a call,
so if you're looking for, if you're lonely Friday night, give them a call.
But so head on over to Twitter right now. That's where the contest is happening. Basically, what we're asking you to do is predict the final score for the Seaward Patriots game next Sunday.
I think my score had the best prediction.
I think yours was pretty close.
Yeah, I think people are going to be like, I should have went with that.
But yeah, so head on over to Twitter. You can throw an entry out once every day until Sunday.
Oh, that's so it's not just one and done.
One and done. You can do it every single day until Sunday. You just have to use the hashtag Shipyard Giveaway. Head to our Twitter page. All the details are on our currently pinned tweet. Yeah. And then we're not just giving away the Shipyard shirt.
Whoa, what?
No, we're also giving away, if you retweet the pinned tweet.
Ooh.
Retweet the pinned tweet.
Retweet the pinned tweet.
Then we're going to be drawing from those retweets to give away a Fleet shirt.
Yeah.
It's a very nice shirt with the Fleet logo smack in the center.
Smack dab in the old central area.
That's right. But yeah, so give it a go.
Do it.
Test out your luck. The tiebreaker is determined if more than one people had the same guess. It's whoever tweeted it first.
Gotcha.
Is the tiebreaker.
That's fair.
Yep. And,
what if, just throwing this out there, what if it's like somebody did something at 2:51, but Twitter doesn't count for seconds and there's another person that's at 2:51?
We are not that popular.
Okay.
It's been up for 2 days. I think we've gotten about 25 entries, which is pretty good.
I was way off. Never mind.
I was way off.
I don't think we have to worry.
But no, so I don't think you have to worry about that. But I think we can determine down to the minute or second, even if we needed to.
All right.
Because they're listed in order. You hit the hashtag.
That's true. That is true.
That's how the old Twitter works there, Smith.
Twitter.
But now, without any further ado, we are going to welcome Howard Bender onto the show.
Howard Bender, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Shipyard, we have probably the greatest guest. No, I'm going to just say it. We have definitively the greatest guest on the show with us today that we've ever had. It is Howard Bender, who is the head of content for the Fantasy Alarm Show and also my favorite radio host on the Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio channel. Howard, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Joe, I'm blushing. Come on, man. Like, what you gotta do? Why you gotta do that? Why you gotta start like that? Come on.
Hey, I'm just really excited that you're here.
I'm super psyched, man. The fact that when we connected on Twitter, I was super stoked about it. One of my producers had been talking about the AAF, and my feeling about it is that why aren't we doing more stuff like that? And then I guess you reached out, you tweeted at me from the Shipyard podcast, and we just kind of connected. I got to tell you, man, I think this is a match made in heaven.
Well, thanks. You accused me of being a burner account for that producer, Sandro Anello, I believe.
Sandro.
Yeah,
Sandro
for Sandro.
Anello, absolutely.
And I said, good sir, I am not a burner account, and I can prove it. Why don't you come on to the show? And that's how our union was born. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you did your Fantasy Alarm show today, what's the runtime on that show? Typically 3 hours?
No, it's a 2 hour show from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, yeah.
And then you also subbed in on the Colton and the Wolfman show just before coming on with us, which was another 2.5 hours?
Another 2 hour show, yeah, definitely. That was from 10 to midnight Eastern. So, I mean, we're on the West Coast here. It's 9:30. Why aren't we talking more sports?
Exactly.
That's right. We can go all night long if we need to. But so the first question that I have for you, Howard, and it's been really something that's been on my mind because I believe that the AAF is the great enabler for us fantasy football players who are just devastated when football goes away after the regular season and the playoffs. And if you were to come to me and tell me that we have the opportunity for 10 more weeks of fantasy football in some way, shape, or form again, then I'm signing up immediately. So what has the sentiment been within the mainstream fantasy sports community? Are people embracing it? Are people rejecting at it? Are they scoffing at it?
I'm trying to keep it as close to the vest as possible here so that Fantasy Alarm can, kind of break in. But, I mean, listen, here's the thing is that football drives the bus. In the fantasy industry, football is what it's all about. And, there are tons of people who clamor for fantasy football talk 365. And to me, it seems pointless because once the Super Bowl's over, you have so much player movement, you have so much coaching movement, different systems are implemented, then the draft happens, and there's so much that's different between, say, when the Super Bowl ends and when training camp even opens. that to sit there and talk about mock drafts or anything like that with the NFL, it gets really stagnant in May and June, and even to a certain extent through the first half of July. And it's 2.5 months of like snore, snore, snore. We've heard all this before over and over again. So why not, after the Super Bowl, you've got the AAF. It goes on for 10 weeks right there. And then all of a sudden, when you go back to the NFL and fantasy football, it's all fresh. It's new. Things have happened. Player movement has settled down, and you can start making your assessments for the upcoming season. So I think that this is very, to me, it's perfectly placed to go from the Super Bowl for the next 2.5 months beyond that.
Well, that's really good to hear. I know I'm definitely super excited. I think there's an element of being able to also find some diamonds in the rough there in the AAF. Like we saw Josh Johnson make the transition. I think he got a lot of buzz around being the first pick in the AAF, and that maybe catapulted him over to the Redskins like he did. He started off very strong, very, very strong.
Yeah.
And then he didn't quite hold up through the end as teams got adjusted to his style of play and everything. But I think if he were to make the comeback and then do what he did in those first couple games with the Redskins throughout the season with the Fleet, if he does come back, which is still a big if. I did talk to resources at the team, and they told me that they will know for sure whether Josh Johnson's coming back to the Fleet next week. But what are your thoughts as far as the AAF is just being a talent developer for, players going back into the NFL, and if we might be able to find some new running backs who can replace the giant voids that are out there right now?
Well, see, and that's the thing, is that I think it's fantastic. And I think what the AAF can actually do is kind of bridge the gap between college and the pros. With baseball, you've got kids who come out of college, they go through the minor leagues, whether it's the single A, double A, triple A, they move up through the farm system until they develop. You're basically sitting here right now where the big debate is, do we start paying college athletes? Because, you got all these guys who are sitting out bowl games at the end of the season because they want to commit to the NFL. So I think that what we really need, and the NBA, we saw the NBA doing this also with the D-League and the start of the D-League here, because what did you want to do? Did you want to keep fishing out of the high schools and leave like a whole bunch of uneducated billionaires out there who have who maybe like blew their knee out in the first year that they were playing hoops? So I like this as a next step kind of thing, as a place to say, well, you know what? You're not at the NFL. You might not be at the NFL level yet, but take a year of seasoning here. It's 2.5 months of a season here. Get some seasoning. Show up at the AAF. I guarantee you that we're going to see a number of players from the AAF finish up the season and get an invite to training camp. Like, I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, I hope so. And there's some familiar names in there, too, that I think kind of fell out of the good graces of the NFL, and one of which is Bishop Sankey. Now, he definitely didn't live up to expectations with the Titans, but the first images that I've seen coming out of training camp, he looks really good, really fast, really spry, really strong. So I'm really interested in seeing how Bishop Sankey's going to perform this year, and if maybe he can redeem himself in the eyes of the NFL and get back up to the pros.
Well, I think he can, and I think that what we've seen, and we've seen this develop with a number of athletes, where they go off to the Canadian Football League and they try to hone their skills there and make it back to the NFL. I know that Vince Young has been trying that. A number of guys who just, high-rated draft picks who just busted in the NFL. And I mean, where are they going to, if they can go to a team, if they can go to an affiliate team that's in the AAF, and they can continue to work out and they can continue to go up against high-level football players. And it's not, okay, fine. There are some NFLers in the AAF, and we've seen that already. And so, so you are going up against National Football League type talent. It's to me, this is like the AAA for the NFL. And I think that it's a great spot to be in. And I think we're going to see some really interesting crossover.
What would be really cool, too, from the fantasy game perspective is if we, from dynasty formats, to be able to actually roster some of the guys on the AAF and hold on to them like you do in fantasy baseball.
Sure. Oh, I would love that because because Dynasty NFL right now is it's garbage. It really is because the shelf life of players is terrible, and for a guy to really make it through. I mean, I'm in a Dynasty league for Sirius XM, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like trying to fill out this roster with some of these names. I'm like, you're killing me. I'd much rather take like a young, hungry guy who maybe he was an undrafted free agent. He got a couple of tryouts. They offered him a spot on the practice squad for a team, and he's going to go to the AAF. So, I mean, to me, that's a guy who I would much rather have than just take, oh, man, let me take a shot on Kristen Michael again. Yeah. He might be good.
Right.
No, thank you. Nope. So that's a great segue, I would say, over to what I want to talk about next. And maybe you have some insight on this, maybe you don't. But what do you think the chances are of the kind of the big boys, the big players in the fantasy platforms getting involved, the Yahoos, the FanDuels, the DraftKings? My thought is that can really dictate the success of the leagues outside of the markets that the teams are actually in. I know we're here in San Diego, super excited about it. Birmingham, super excited about it. The little markets that we're in are super excited about it, but the national audience, they're gonna be drawn to the fantasy game, and that can make or break the league as a whole. I think that can bring in a lot of money, and if it doesn't gain traction, it could potentially be disastrous. Like, I think there's a lot riding on this. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on that. And I probably just drivel on a little bit. That's my non-professionalism showing right there. I was like, how do I hand this back to Howard?
Right this way, sir. Your table's right here. Yeah. Thank you very much. Listen, I think that first of all, I'd be shocked if you guys started your season without a deal in place with FanDuel and DraftKings. I'd be shocked. I mean, I don't know who's doing the stats providing for the AAF, and that might be the best place to start is to find out who's keeping all the stats, and what the feeds are. So, but I mean, come on, guys. I mean, if I'm setting a DFS lineup for the WNBA, do you not think I'm going to play AAF? You got people who are dying to play esports.
Yeah.
On DFS, what the hell is that? Come on, are you kidding me? Yeah, well, I'm gonna put $10,500 onto this kid because he's 12 years old and he plays Call of Duty better than anybody else I know. So I think that I definitely think that there is a place for it, and if the stat providers and everybody can get together and on board with this, I think it's great. The league is small enough right now where, I want to start a league for this season. The thing about it is it's 8 teams in the league. So your fantasy leagues are you're either going to do like an 8-person league, and then, and each team drafts like the team quarterback instead of the individual quarterback.
Oh, that's an interesting take on that. Like, you get every quarterback from that team.
Right. So because you've got 8 players in the fantasy game, and there are only 8 teams. So you might as well just draft the team quarterback there, or you play with 6 people and you say, well, just somebody's going to have 2 quarterbacks. Somebody's not going to have 2 quarterbacks. If an injury happens, you're going to have to go, fish on the waiver wire. But I mean. It's small enough right now where you could still have like some old school fart like me be willing to nerd out and say, "Oh, I'll just keep the stats by hand, no problem."
Well,
that will happen.
I mean, I'm in. Season long, I'm really interested about because I don't see. Like you're talking about, it's going to be a little tricky to pull off. And I don't know that AAF is going to include that, at least this year, in their platform. From what I've seen is they have a partnership with MGM Grand Gaming, and they're going to be providing the sports betting technology, and then they're developing in-house all of their stats distribution. So they've got a group called Exos doing their telemetry and stats, and then they've released an API that I believe is accessible right now for other platforms such as Fantasy Alarm. Hint, hint, get on it. But I did some sleuthing into that, and I found that it looks like they're kind of positioning themselves for a lot of prop betting, in-game prop betting. Things like the coin toss. Is it going to be a first down? Is it going to be, what's the next play going to be, a pass or a run? So one of the theories that I have about a version of fantasy that could actually be a lot of fun and actually get you to pay attention to one game all the way through would be, okay, I'm going to compete against everybody else here at the game or at home and see if I can get the most prop bets correct that earn me points throughout the game. So say I get a first down and I called it, that gets me a point, or that gets me 5 points, or whatever. And then whoever at the end of in a kind of a daily style, like who can predict the best what's happening in the game, could be a new and actually pretty fun style of daily fantasy. That's entirely a theory, but I feel like from what I've read, it's a plausible one.
Well, it's definitely possible. We at Fantasy Alarm, we're partnered up with WinView Games, and WinView Games is a predictive prop bet based game where they send you, you sign up, you choose your contest, then they send you a whole bunch of pregame props that you can bid on there for the full length of the game. So now some, you might get paid out on some of them inside the first quarter. That could just be one of the pregame props where they're like, will there be a fumble recovery for a touchdown? And all of a sudden, that happens in the first quarter. You're like, sweet, I just got that. Now I've got extra points to play with here. So that's definitely something that's going to go on. I say we just go old school fantasy here, and the two of you and me, and we get a couple of other dudes. Let's
do it.
3 more dudes.
3 more dudes. That's all.
Our math is off. Run a draft. We'll do it. I'll have them do it. We'll do it on the Fantasy Alarm Show on Sirius.
There we go.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, we are on board 100%. That's I'm kind of geeking out right now because
Joe's already writing down formulas and like algebra.
I'm twirling in the background right now with excitement. But
I think that it's in a great spot, and if the AAF is done properly, and it continues as such, and it doesn't try to say we're going to compete against the NFL. Much like the World League of American Football, which failed miserably multiple times, or the USFL, which they thought could compete with the NFL. If you're not trying to compete with the NFL, then you're going to end up complimenting them. You're going to end up getting support from them. And that in turn is just going to spill off into different things like expansion. And all of a sudden now the AAF goes from 8 leagues to 8 teams to 10 teams, and then from 10 to 12. And then it just kind of grows a little bit where all of a sudden now maybe majority of NFL franchises have their, quote unquote minor league team in the AAF. And I think that it's something that we can grow in the fantasy realm as well. And I think that, if we can kind of put it all together here, maybe we just kind of geek out and we do it on a spreadsheet and we post it regularly and we tweet it on out and we get other people on board. But if they see how much fun we're having with it, that other people are going to do it. And then let's face it, the degenerate gamblers out there, they're going to be like, we can put a couple $100 in on this one.
10 more weeks.
the great enabler of the AAF. Well, we are definitely on board with that idea. I'm super excited about it. I think it's really just such a cool opportunity to start something new.
Yeah, we need to have like an inaugural fantasy AAF league.
Yeah, we should for sure. And I know we've been talking about doing some things with the other podcasts too. So I think there's another number of different ways we can do this, but I'm super excited about bringing it to Fantasy Alarm, at least if we can do this, because it's a brand new pioneer. It's like this show. We didn't know what we were getting into, and we've been amazed and surprised every week. Here I am talking to Howard Bender of Fantasy Alarm, which I never expected would happen, but
because it wasn't a burner account.
I'm pretty. You know what though? You come meet me in person. I'm a pretty approachable guy. I'm pretty easygoing.
Nice.
Well, hang out. I'll take you to a fish show if they ever play down in San Diego again.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, Howard, thanks so much for coming on the show. I know you toughed through this. You've been pounding the Dayquil all day, and I just couldn't express any more gratitude for you coming on the show. I'm really looking forward to what we can do this year with fantasy football.
Well, I definitely think that we should stay in very close contact. I think we should definitely set a date where we can come together and put together a draft. I'm telling you, I've got guys who are already interested, ready to go. A couple of the producers over at Sirius XM who want in on it. And I think we start it up. Whether whether we're doing it by hand or not, we can start doing it and we can start publishing it. And let's be trendsetters, guys. Let's be trendsetters.
Let's do it. Well, the cut down, the 53 man roster cut down is January 30th. I believe. So then we'll have our final rosters, and that's when we can start drafting.
Beautiful. See, there you go. Yeah. Right? Little Groundhog Day draft.
Little Groundhog Day draft. Oh, my goodness. I'm
10
so
more
excited.
weeks of football. He saw a shadow.
He saw his shadow, 10 more weeks of football. And we got our marketing campaign.
Howard Bender just came out of his basement there finally. Oh, my God. And he saw his shadow. Let's play more football.
Look at that. We already got our marketing campaign.
Done.
It's a thing. It's officially a
wrap.
Thing.
Put it in the can.
I'm serious, guys. We're gonna make this happen. I'll tell you. Let's just mark off Groundhog Day as a potential draft date, and we'll just go back and forth with it. I'll tell you. Even if I have to keep it by hand myself, we will have this league this year.
Well, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and we are on board. I'll stay in very close contact with you. We'll work out the details. Couldn't be more excited.
Joe has the vapors.
I'm feeling the vapors. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great to be able to connect with you guys. I'm telling you, people are going to look at us. They're going to look 10 years down the road. They're going to be like, those are the guys who started AAF Fantasy.
I have that Twitter handle already. So
what?
Thinking ahead.
You are a pioneer, sir.
I have Fantasy AAF or I have AAF Fantasy. I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember for sure.
It's okay.
If I don't have them both, I'll go grab the other one.
You better go buy the domain name, too.
Oh, yeah.
GoDaddy.com. There I am on it.
Already on it. Clickety-clack. Type. Howard, thanks again. I'm going to let you go. I know you've been talking all day long, and we appreciate you coming on. Absolutely fantastic. And...
Yes, thank you so much. This has been awesome, even though I didn't talk much, but that's okay.
Smithy is our resident. He doesn't follow the fantasy quite as closely as I do, but he's definitely
more passive.
You got a championship under your belt.
I did 2 years ago. Yeah.
Smithy, we're gonna have you nerding out in no time. Trust me.
I'm more than willing.
I do want to say this before we go, Howard. I am this year, for the first time ever, a 3-time season-long fantasy champion. And I am also, for the first time, a Fantasy Alarm subscriber, and I do not think that is a coincidence.
Oh.
Fantasy Alarm, it will make you a fantasy champion.
Well, that's where I went wrong this year.
That's true.
Well, congratulations on your championships. I'm very happy that we were able to help you out there.
Yes, indeed. Even my best ball leagues, I came up about 350 in the black in my fantasy leagues in my best ball, which I was not. I thought that was just pure luck, but I think I'm the only person in the history to actually make money playing best ball.
You could very well be. I had too many shares of Royce Freeman and Rashad Penny in mine.
Oh, poor Rashad Penny. He's a San Diego staple, but. Yep, it didn't work out too well for him this year.
There's always next year.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, there is always next year. Again, thanks so much, Howard Bender, the also known as the Tight End Whisperer.
Yeah.
And check him out on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, the Fantasy Alarm Show. Where can people find you?
Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on the Fantasy Alarm Show. I also do from 7 to 10 Eastern on Sunday nights, Fantasy Sports Tonight, with me and Adam Ronis. And then, of course, just hit me up on Twitter at RotoBuzzGuy, or you can just find me over at fantasyalarm.com.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, guys. An absolute pleasure.
Well, that was an awful lot of fun, Smith. I am
You're beaming.
Giddy like a little schoolgirl. I'm just excited right now. Yeah, I've been listening to Howard for years on the radio, so it was pretty cool for me to get to talk to him right there.
Awesome.
Yep. Just another unexpected, beautiful thing that has come from this podcast of ours, Smith.
Indeed. Just the rewards just keep coming.
And what's really cool is that we're going to be putting this out in the morning, but today, if you're listening to this on Sirius XM, Fantasy Alarm, Smithy and I will actually be going on to Howard's show.
What?
Which is crazy. What? Amazing. Yeah, but we cannot and will not end this episode before talking about our beloved Facebook group.
It's got a special place in my heart.
Special place in both of our hearts. And you guys have some questions that you've asked. And we're not going to answer
a single one.
Not this week.
Sorry.
Suckers! If you can't troll your own Facebook group, who can you troll?
Exactly.
Sorry, guys. We love you. You're our nucleus.
You're our bread and butter.
Bread and butter. But we've run out of time for this week. And we will... we definitely because we've run out of time, and not at all because we have not researched the answers to the questions you have asked.
I would not fathom not researching any of these questions.
No, but in all seriousness, guys, we saw the questions. Things got crazy. Christmas, New Year's, engaging to ladies, illnesses. Clarification: engagement to one lady, singular.
That's good.
Don't want to confuse the babe. She's listening right now. So,
well,
Smith,
I think it's that time.
Is it that time?
Yes, sir.
That time for some sweet, sweet outro music. Yes, Smith. Now's the time we talk about the hair on our face.
Yes.
Now's the time we talk about how we make that hair on our face beautiful.
First of all, you stop by getting rid of that space on your face.
Space on your face is unacceptable, fellas and ladies. No, it's okay for the ladies.
Unless they're in the circus.
But ladies, we're talking to you. There's at least one of you listening. If you're looking for a gift, a birthday gift, Christmas has passed, a New Year's gift.
Or Valentine's Day.
Or Valentine's Day
Or am I skipping a little far?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, plan early, ladies. For the old Valentine's Day, get yourself a man with a beard.
And if you don't have one, make sure he has one.
You'll be happier. You may even marry that son of a bee.
Yeah, just like somebody we know.
How do you do this? You go on over to thebeardclub.com and you buy some stuff. Simple as that.
Yeah,
no trick to it.
Pick and check what you want, give the diddly-doop credit card number, and put your address in there, and before you know it, you got some bearded good stuff.
Thank you guys for listening. This was a very fun episode. I hope you tune in next week, which will be another fun episode. And go ahead and find us on the old Instagram, the Twitter,
the YouTubes,
our website, theshipyardsd.com. And have yourself a merry little Christmas?
Yes. Groundhog's Day?
We are the boys. I forgot to do We Are the Boys at the Yard.
You did. Man, oh man. This year has not got off to a
We
good
went
start.
through the entire outro song without getting to our little tagline.
Woo.
Maybe we don't deserve boy at the yard status.
Oh, man.
Maybe we aren't boys at the yard. Maybe our milkshakes are not better than theirs.
I think we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and is this really what we have come to?
A good hard look.
A good hard look. Maybe with the lights off.
It's safer that way.
It is.
And we're done podcasting.
We're done. Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you next week.
Smushies kisses. We can talk as long as we want or as short as you want. I know you're
no pressure.
hopped up on the old Dayquil today.
Yeah,
just pounding Dayquil like it's going out of style, and I'm bathing in Afrin too, hoping that it's gonna find its way into every pore of my body.
Well, I think that's good radio right there. So we'll start off with that. I'm gonna if you're ready to go, I'm gonna just kick it off and get it going.
Let's do it.
All right.